MLB network analyst here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, John?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So what is your thoughts on this whole subject with Adam LaRoche?
Well, the whole thing is rarely do you have conversations or discussions where you can see both sides, right? I mean, it's within everyone's right as an organization to ask or to ask your players, look, I'm here with the Braves right now, and the Marlins are playing the Braves. And of course, they came out and made a no facial hair policy.
Yes.
That certainly is within their right. And then you make a decision as a player, as a free agent, if that's something you want to adhere to. The only thing I don't like about this, without not having all the knowledge,
right?
This should have been quiet. This should have been handled. Disappointed it's been handled the way it is, with an open forum and open. So somebody had to leak that. B, there had to be an agreement beforehand, and certainly when Adam signed, they knew and he knew what was expected of him, and now it just seems like that's changed. So it's unfortunate. It's well within the rights of the organization. Organizations have to make tough decisions all the time, and you know, from a standpoint of arguing with either side, you really can't argue either side. They're both right in essence of what they desire. And Adam, a good friend of mine who I haven't talked to, is making a decision what he feels is best, and more power to him if that's what his decision is and what he's willing to give up for the sake of an incredible run of a career that who knew how long it was going to take. I just hate the fact that it just kind of, you know, most people read between the lines and go, if he hit 30 home runs last year and drove in 100 RBIs, would we be having this conversation? And I don't know that we would.
Yeah, and the same thing if the White Sox had won the division, right? Instead of losing in a division that eventually, you know, gave birth to the World Series champion. But what do you make, John Smoltz, of the fact that it appears that every single one of his teammates feels that Adam was in the right? What do you take from that, John?
Yeah, and that's where lies the problem. That's why I wish you wish it never became public to where it becomes this one pitting one against the other. There is a strength in which, you know, I know Adam and I know his family, I know his child Drake, and he has the utmost respect for the game as well as he does for the workplace. And it's not for everybody. I get that. And we're not talking about somebody who, you know, has taken ownership of something that isn't his. And I guess Drake has helped out in various ways. He's become one of the guys with the teammates. Now, on the flip side, you would think that if this had a problem with his teammates, then Adam would have respected it. So, again, on the surface, there's no way to come up with a discernible who's right or who's more right. This just shouldn't have gotten to this point. This can fracture a ball club in many different ways, and I understand management having to make those decisions and policies no different than no facial hair. You have a right to decide if you want to go there or not, but you have to adhere to the rules of which were set forth. This seems like it was a change in progress. This wasn't something that was set in stone before. They've asked him to scale it back. And, you know, if you go back and get people back in the Houston Astro days about the uniqueness of Roger Clemens only pitching in home games,
right,
I'm sure you'd get some difference of opinions as well. So there are uniquenesses that happen, and it can't really be for everybody.
Have you ever been around a player, a teammate who brought his child to work every day, John?
No, but in the certain organizations like the Cardinals, there's different organizations that have different philosophies on how they go about their business. And, you know, I was part of one that if you wanted to do that, it was 2 hours after the game or 2 hours before everyone shows up. So, again, that's where you have to respect the wishes of personally, that's something I never did. But I totally understand if you go to a place and they say it's okay for year one, and then ultimately change your tune, I can see where you may have a problem with that. And then that's where he's made a decision to decide that that was that important to him 2 years ago. Why should that change, you know, in the second year? So, again, very complicated.
It is.
And certainly now it is in a national discussion that should not even be a national discussion. I think when Adam said, I would love this to be, this is a personal issue, and I've addressed my team, and I'm just going to leave it at that, he would have wished that's exactly the way it would have gone down.
Well, at some point, though, riders would have to ask, why did the first baseman suddenly retire? And something would have to be expressed at that point in time. Before we move on from this subject, what are you hearing about how this kid fit in and how often he was around? Because the way it's being discussed, John, it sounds like he was on the on-deck circle with him, and we just don't know exactly what he was doing with the team.
Well, what happens is, okay, he knows his place. He's been the LaRoches, I'm sure, but from their dad, both Adam and his brother grew up in the game and were at the park a lot. And I'm sure he loved that experience.
Yeah.
And he's been able to duplicate that a little bit for his son Drake. And, you're talking about helping out with shoes. You're talking about picking up balls in the cage. You're talking probably out in the outfield shagging. Who knows? But I think there's a difference in some cases where you have somebody come in and it's an entitlement and they think it's theirs, or you have somebody who respects it. And I think that's the absolute sentiment that you're getting. That's why the teammates have his back so much. And yeah, you may have one guy that may not like it, but when you have this many guys coming out speaking on your behalf, that that's where it starts. You start reading between the lines. And I never like a scenario where you have to read between the lines and go, if he did hit 30 home runs like he's capable and hitting 100 RBIs, I think this would have been done and kept in a much different manner. But the fact that he did not have a very good year and the fact that maybe this does, and if I'm an organizational guy, if that ultimately means that it's caused him to do that, so be it. Adam has made, it seems like, a decision that may not have a solution to it for the White Sox now.
John Smoltz, MLB Network Baseball Hall of Famer, here on the Rich Eisen Show. So where do you stand on the Bryce Harper comments? Are you team Bryce, if you will, or team Trout, who says that the game is fine the way it is? John?
Well, it's another one of those you can see within balance, an argument on both sides. I'm more towards, obviously, Goose Cross's career and tenure than I am with the new game and now a broadcaster.
You pick and choose your words a little bit better, though, John, I would have to say. You're more safe for work.
Maybe.
You're more safe for work than Goose, yeah.
And I think the thing is, look, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you lose context of what time, space, if it's 8-0, and we're talking about displaying emotion, I think most people understand how to display that in the right way. And when you don't, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. To me, we're not golf, we're not tennis, we're a team. But team sports has turned into such a look-at-me mindset. How is that emotion? Emotion is the team rallies, the team shows emotion. You hit a big home run, unless it's a game winner. But if you hit a big home run and flip your bat in an 8-0 game, I can't imagine too many people think that's okay. So I'm a big believer that context is huge. And no different than I'm going to be, as a pitcher, tell you it's a tired act, if to use the rhetoric of some people, that if you hit guys just for hitting, the sake of hitting them. I've never been a fan of that. I will call a person out on that 100% of the time. But I guarantee you, when this discussion has earthed or grown legs, that there have been various ways to show emotion, and no one's anti-emotion. When we had the young players come into our organization after winning 14 years in a row, I'm an emotional guy. I play with emotion. But the difference is when a big moment will come by and we win a game, I go shake someone's hand. And they would call us boring. Well, boring won 14 years in a row. So take what you want. Do you want emotion? Do you want Facebook? Do you want Twitter Nation? Everyone wants attention. And I guess putting on a jersey is not enough attention, that sometimes you got to draw it. So, hey, I completely understand what Bryce Harper's saying at some point, and this sounds like a political safe answer, and I understand what others are saying, but the balance of it has to come. There has to be some kind of balance. I mean, Bautista's unbelievable home run started all, but this is not that's not the only thing they're talking about. They're talking about home runs that aren't like that aren't game winners, that aren't in the playoffs.
Yeah, sixth inning solo shots.
And the only way I can imagine, I could go back in time. Imagine if I threw a pitch and struck a guy out, and I verbally said, "You stink, sit down." Do you think that he's going to appreciate my way of showing emotion? I don't think so.
Exactly.
And so because even if a player doesn't say anything, but they draw attention to themselves and basically are saying, I am the baddest human being on earth, look at me, that I round the bases, it's kind of the same thing. So the game's going to be fine. The young players are dynamic. It's awesome to see them play the game the way they play it. And when you get to know, like a Carlos Gomez, who plays and every day is high on life and shows the game that he loves, you understand why his emotion is the way it is, even if it rubs people the wrong way, because baseball is not supposed to be. You play a game and you meet before the national anthem when you're doing your stretches and everyone gives everyone a hug and, hey, how you doing? That's the part of the game that's not supposed. Go to dinner later. Go to dinner in private. I mean, play the game and represent your team and play hard. And if you got friends on the other team, see them later. That's where I go.
Last one for you here. Are you nervous about Middle Tennessee State? Yes or no? Does it make you nervous?
I am nervous about every game that Michigan State plays because now they are one of the favorites. I just like it when they're kind of sliding under the radar.
Yep.
And they're not. So now I'm nervous about every game. Now I'm nervous about that first, or second or third, however many twos have lost. So yes, I will have nervous, even though I picked them to win it all.
Yeah, I know you got Michigan State all the way through. That's the same in my bracket too.
Right now, I got Michigan beating Notre Dame.
Look at you,
I had
John.
them in the playing game, beating Notre Dame. So
I like it.
I'm not one of those guys that sees the other side as the total evil empire.
No, sometimes you use your head over your heart, John.
Correct.
Evil empire. Nice one. I like it. Come on, man. You got that punt. You blocked the punt. What else do you need? How much more maize and blue blood do you want, John?
Listen, I know national championships coming to Ann Arbor. All right, we already know that. Okay, so everyone's all.
You don't.
I know it's happening. I've got an uncle who's an amazing blue diehard.
Okay.
He said, we'll let you guys have basketball as long as we get football back. And I said, that's fair enough.
No, but you've got basketball either way. I love Izzo. It's incredible. He's the best. Thanks for calling in, John. I appreciate it.
You got it.
You bet. That's John Smoltz of MLB Network right here.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.